Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. I'm a former commando from the United Kingdom, and we're going to do another update on Ukraine today. We've got a few things specifically that we want to cover, one of which is the Russian losses and the total impact it's had on the war over there. The numbers might actually disturb you a little bit. It's quite... Well, put it this way, it's in and around the same number of military personnel we have in the British military entirely. So let's just get straight into this, guys. We're going to get into a few different sources, a little bit of a map study, and get amongst it. So thanks for being here, troops. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you smash that like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support me, I'd really appreciate that. But let's just get into it then. I'll have this map up for reference, guys. I'll be jumping in various different parts in and around what I have to say. But in a nutshell, the irretrievable losses of the Russian army in Ukraine, or the Russian military rather, can be more than 90,000 people. Two sources told important stories about this. One is a former officer of the Russian Special Services, so quite a big deal. All right, he's a guy who will know his numbers. And the second is a current FSB officer, so quite reputable sources of information is where this is coming from. Whether or not we can believe the actual information that's coming out to be true is another question. But one thing's for sure, two reputable sources for that information indeed. Now, the irretrievable losses include those killed, missing, those who died of wounds in hospitals, as well as wounded who cannot return to military service. So that's the overall number. So it isn't just about KIAs, it's about those who are being injured, maimed, or killed in action. Okay, troops. Now, a lot of those will be... how can I put it? People would be shocked at, what would constitute as keeping you away from the battlefield. Now, if you've been shot in the leg or something like that, it's not like the war movies where you see them getting patched up and literally getting thrown back into the front lines. It can be, most of the time, being shot in a leg, it can be quite serious, okay? Life-threatening in many cases. So bullets don't just go in and cause a wound, all right? They break bones, they tear ligaments, they destroy people. Okay, I don't want to get too deep into that, but you understand that it's not quite what the movies portray. Okay, being shot and stuff like that will take a lot of individuals off the battle space if they indeed haven't been killed off that gunshot wound. So the numbers is in and around 90,000 people in terms of irretrievable losses, which is a humongous number. Again, the British military stands in and around, give or take, 85,000 people. Maybe it's a few more, maybe it's a few less. Which is astonishing, really, when you consider that they've had the same amount of losses in Ukraine alone. Now, the figure voiced by our interlocutors is close to the data that the United Kingdom, my country, Secretary of Defence announced in early September. According to Ben Wallace, over 25,000 Russian soldiers were killed in Ukraine. The British Ministry of Defence estimated the total number of losses of the Russian military at more than 80,000 people. Staggering. Now, recall that the last time the Russian Ministry of Defense reported on losses was in September. Then Sergei Shonio said that 5,937 Russian servicemen were killed in Ukraine. So the numbers there are differing according to the British intelligence, according to individuals who've obviously, went against Russian protocol and telling individuals the sources of the information is, 90,000 or so. Russia wouldn't want to admit, those numbers if it was true. Hence the reason they've said just shy of 6,000 servicemen were killed in Ukraine. Those numbers differ quite staggeringly, quite a difference there. Now, at the end of September, important stories wrote about the state of Russian army, even 7 months after the start of the invasion. So this information's been out there a number of months, okay, and I trust British intelligence services with the information that they've got. There's one thing that I can brag about is our intelligence services. It's top notch. I believe personally it's up there with the best in the world, amidst another couple of countries I'm not going to mention in this video because it's irrelevant in that regard. But yeah, the numbers are staggering, troops. 90,000 people. I wanted to cover that because there is two sides to this story, okay? There's the losses on Ukraine. There's also the losses on the side of Russia. And again, me being neutral on the whole situation, I have to be because, one, I'm not a politician, and two, I'm I'm not in favour of war in general, okay? Although you might be shocked at that, me being a former Royal Marine, it doesn't make me all gun-ho and stuff and all for war. It's quite the contrary, guys, okay? I wish this never had to happen. I wish I never had to report on this and the information that's already out there into the news sphere. But we do, and we do anyway, and this is the numbers that's been alleged. So it's quite a horrific number, troops, okay? So moving on from those numbers, I want to get into the support that's been alleged to be given from Germany, because I think it's quite important. This can change the outcome of things, certainly. You know, now Germany is alleged to give Ukraine an additional MLRS howitzers, which is artillery, basically. Now, Germany will hand over to Ukraine more self-propelled artillery howitzers, 2,000 and multiple launch rocket systems, Mars 2, in the next few weeks. The German Defense Ministry tweeted during the 6th Ramstein format meeting in Brussels on the 12th, which was yesterday. Now, the day before that, on the 11th, according to the German magazine Der Spiegel, the first of the 4 new IRIS-T SLM air defense systems arrived in Ukraine via Poland. Now, if you understand how the war's been fought over Ukraine, we'll understand that the air defense systems, although they're doing a splendid job in many cases, they aren't actually up to scratch, certainly nowhere near what they could be. And air defense systems are key to this war, okay? You know, if you can take out air capability from any military, you control a lot of the battle space there, okay, by having effective air defense capabilities. So this is going to help them out an awful lot, all right? Now, on October the 11th, 2 days ago, Germany announced its plans to purchase 16 Susanna 2 self-propelled wheeled tank howitzers in cooperation with Norway and Denmark as additional assistance to Ukraine. The artillery systems will be produced in the Slovak Republic with a preliminary delivery in 2023. So again, guys, this is all good for Ukraine in terms of what they're being supplied with. You know, we're some months into the war at this moment in time, okay? I think Ukraine understands exactly what they need, and the need has been the same for a few months now. It's that increasing need for effective air defense systems to be able to counteract anything from the air. And that's not just planes and stuff, that's you know, rocket systems and whatnot, which we understand even just a few days ago, we've seen what happened. All right, there's many cities, over 20 alleged cities that was bombed with different air missiles and strikes and stuff in an alleged retaliation for what happened on the Kerch Strait Bridge. So if you can alleviate that, and what you're going to do is restore confidence in the public who are then residing in these local settlements, okay? These guys have been bedded in after many of these areas have been liberated. And after being liberated, you'd feel that, you know, we need a sense of comfort. And if your air defense systems aren't up to scratch and these bombs can come in as a result of a retaliation strike, which, you know, is still alleged at this moment in time. We don't know if it was a direct result of what happened in the Kerch Strait, but we know one thing's for sure. If they had sufficient air defense systems that could definitely stop these things from happening, then the people there would feel a lot safer in their homes post the liberation, all right? So it's okay taking land. It's how you maintain that safety once the land has been liberated. And can you really feel safe at home if strikes can happen post the liberation phase, you know, especially in the counteroffensive? I don't know. I think you need... this is not just going to help Ukraine in the combat the counteroffensive. It's going to help Ukraine with regards the ongoing peace protocols and stuff, and how they're going to feel safe in their homes, free from strikes. They need this kit and equipment in there anyway. You know, given how close they are to the Russian border in certain areas that you see fighting taking place, air defense systems are going to come in handy in the coming years. Okay, guys. So that goes without saying. It's an important thing. And I'm glad that Germany is going to give the additional MLRS howitzers and other air defense systems that Norway and Denmark is given in terms of assistance. So the assistance is there massively from wider Europe given. So moving on to the last point that I wanted to cover before we do a bit of a deep state map analysis is... We've all heard about the Nord Stream, how it was affected. You know, people are starting to, come up with loads of crazy stories. Who was to blame? Who wasn't to blame? It's the blame culture at the moment, and that's rife during the war. No one really wants to take responsibility, and then when people do take responsibility, they say it's a lie, a cover-up. So this is a really interesting article. Let's get into it, guys. Now, Russian President Putin on Wednesday offered to resume gas supplies to Europe through the internal pact of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. Now, the ball is in the European Union's court. If they want to, then the taps can be turned on, and that's it, he said in a speech at the Energy Forum in Moscow. So before we delve deep into that a little bit, let's look at the mentality behind this. He's saying that the ball is in the European Union's court, the EU's court. If they want, then the taps can be turned back on. It's not going to be as simple as that, though, is it? I think there's going to be provisions in and around that. Now, I'm guessing it's going to be in and around the support that Europe is giving, the United Nations and NATO is giving Ukraine at this moment in time. The taps can be turned on, but there'll be a big but there. What's the provisions around that? Now, my guess is, you can have your heat, you can have your warmth, but we want you to stop supplying X, Y, and Z to Ukraine. That's my feeling of the whole thing anyway. There's never just a simple answer with Putin. In this case, it's definitely not going to be a simple answer. So, yeah, he might be saying what appears to be the right thing, but there's got to be provisions around that. He's going to want something for those taps to be turned on. It's not just going to be a simple yes. All right, we can believe that much anyway. But let's get back into the article. Germany, however, said it would not take Russia's gas via the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that has become a flashpoint in the Ukraine crisis. We covered it a few weeks ago. Now, asked in Berlin, would rule out the use of the Nord Stream 2, German government spokeswoman Christiane Hoffmann said yes. So that's pretty interesting as well, troops, they're not ruling it out. Now, independently of the possibility sabotage of the two pipelines, we have seen that Russia is no longer a reliable energy supplier, and I believe that's a term globally. Not really reliable. I mean, India would say otherwise, but India's got a certain relationship with Russia, and it dates back, generations really in terms of the support they've had for each other. Yeah, make of that as you wish, guys. I'm still yet to fully understand that, to be honest with you. And that even before the damage of the Nord Stream 1, there was no longer any gas flowing. This is something that took me by surprise. I generally thought, and again, my lack of knowledge, I'm not an expert on all of this. I thought the whole point of these Nord Streams was is that they were active, okay? And when someone pointed out to me, it was sabotaged, it was destroyed, but it wasn't actually supplying anything to Europe. I was like, oh, well, what, really? I looked into it. It turns out that, there's an element of that is quite true. So do we even need it on anyway if it wasn't supplying anything? So well, it's like we're crying out for the need of it, yet it wasn't even there in the beginning. So I don't know. The whole thing around the Nord Stream, it seems there's a lot of money involved in this. There's a lot of money could be generated. It's about money, guys. Let's face it. Now, massive amounts of gas were released into the Baltic Sea after both links of the Nord Stream 1 pipeline and one of the two links of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline were ruptured on September 26th. Russia had already halted gas deliveries through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline in early September, so not long ago, citing technical problems. Yeah, right. Now, Nord Stream 2 never became operational as Germany halted its approval after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So, beginning of the year, effectively. Putin said it was possible to repair the pipeline, but that Russia and Europe should decide their fate. So, he's putting it down to Europe to make the decision. Again, guys, I generally believe that there's going to be provisions around that. It's not going to be a simple fact of, yes, can we have the gas, please? He's going to want things for that. He's going to want, things to stop in terms of support for Ukraine instantly. And yeah, he's probably going to want a lot more money as a result of it, okay? We said this months and months ago. This is the first time in known history that we've seen sanctions imposed on someone, and those sanctions imposed on that someone has directly benefited them economically. It's absolutely crazy, guys, that he's making a lot of money, or he was making a lot of money off oil and gas. The prices went through the roof, but winters, we see it's coming. It's here in most parts, all right? The weather's already terrible in most parts, so this is going to affect a lot of people, okay? It's going to affect a lot of people through rising prices, where we get our gas from. It's a terrible, terrible situation, troops. But here we are on the map, finally, 14 minutes in. Guys, if you're here, thank you for stopping by. We've changed the colours a bit to be a little bit more eye-friendly, okay? Like our good friend Dennis Davidoff's. I've tried to, I didn't realise that you could change the colours and the gradient of the ground. We can see a little bit more detail now with what we're dealing with here in terms of the layout of the ground, how it looks and stuff. It's hard to see on a bird's eye view map. But what I want to get into a little bit here is, although we're seeing quite a bit of a lull in the battle space here, we are seeing something quite interesting. Now, if you look at this front line where they're at a bit of a stalemate, we need to really, really think about this now. These areas here, by no stretch of the imagination aren't mountains, but this terrain is a lot more hillier, a lot more arduous, undulating than it was in previous months, okay? Added with the disadvantage of the bad weather that's been coming in, the rain, the cold and stuff, this area here will be really, really tough underfoot. We're not just talking, let's go for a steady walk in the hills, guys. We're talking about heavily laden soldiers on this area. Heavily laden with kit and equipment. Some people might have blistered feet. We're all human at the end of the day. This does hinder progress, guys. And what I believe is happening is in these areas in and around, whilst the weather's been a little bit bad, I think Ukraine is really, really getting their supply routes in first on in a real good situation. They're wanting to be able to push forward with a lot of steam. So effectively, what you're going to need along this front line is real defendable logistical positions where they can resupply their frontline troops effectively. Okay, and that's an important term there. Effectively resupply. There's no point in having logistical provisions in place if you don't want to effectively resupply your troops on the ground in the correct way. Now, we've seen over the past few months that Russia wasn't doing that. Russia wasn't effectively utilizing the logistics that they had to their advantage. Hence, all of this land has been overtaken from Ukraine, to the point of which a lot of these areas now have been taken for quite some time. This has been liberated since the beginning of last month or the month before. Nearly 8,000 square kilometers of land. We've seen a large proportion of the southern region of the Oskil Reservoir now turned green. These areas are effectively free from control, okay? And I doubt they've even got Ukrainian troops in these areas now, because the benefit of this situation for Ukraine is, because it's their homeland, they don't need to leave troops behind in these settlements, okay? They can just move on through without having to resupply and maintain a foothold there, which is really important to consider. Russia can't do that. Whatever they take, they have to leave a small contingent of individuals there to defend that land, okay? That's not really spoken about an awful lot. So I envision in the next few days, weather dependent, I generally believe that we might see a little bit more traction, but not as much as what we've anticipated. The weather is going to be turning against both sides here, troops, okay? But yeah, if we want to see a push forward in this way, we do need the weather to be generous in favor of Ukraine. But if it's in favor of Ukraine, bear in mind, it's obviously in favor of Russia as well, because that's just the way it works, guys. But this terrain is going to be hard, I think, hard for both sides to fight upon. Just be mindful of that. The area, again, just to reiterate, it's this is tough ground to take. The fact that they have taken it in such quick succession, it tells a massive story. All right, these areas here are not going to be easy to take at all, guys. And the areas that they want to take, if we look, yes, you've got a bit of sparse open field land here. I say a bit, you've got quite a bit of land here. Few main roads there running through these settlements. But as you push on through, we can see a similar feature here that we were talking about today. See these hills, these contour lines, they looks like these are, again, not mountains by any stretch of the imagination, but hilly nonetheless. This area is these areas will be tough to take, tough to fight, tough to defend from. And if the weather sets in bad, it'll be even harder, guys. But we need to see a little bit more momentum in the next week or so after logistical supplies have done their magic, so to speak. And then hopefully we can see Ukraine pushing on through. I would like to see Zvato under Ukraine control very, very soon, because if you look at this route, you've got road systems leading into it from the north, from the east, and from the west. If you can take Svato, you take out a main logistical supply hub in terms of how you can resupply your troops on the ground effectively. These areas running all the way down this feature here will be, my guess, resupplied effectively from Svato, just based on the road systems there. Okay, because trust me, you might have tanks and things, but they're not going to be able to resupply as effectively across this terrain, okay, especially in the bad weather. You are going to need roads to be able to get down into these settlement areas and resupply your troops from. But that's my take on it, guys. A little bit of a map study there. I'm trying to delve in deeper into other bits of information on the ground based on my military experience, okay? How I would operate on the ground there, the expectations of me, what would affect my morale, what would affect my ability to operate on the ground. And it's not all about lines and projections and tactics, okay? It's about the feelings and the thoughts and the weather systems, okay? That's how it's going to affect the soldiers' progress on the ground. Hopefully I can give you guys a little bit more of an insight into that. Hopefully I have today. If you believe that I have, drop a comment below. If you're still here, thank you guys for supporting the channel, and I'll see you very, very soon with another update. Troops, I appreciate you all. Let's get this video up into the multiple thousands of views, like our good friend Dennis Davidoff. If we can share this video far and wide so we get hundreds of thousands of views like him, I'll be really, really pleased, guys, because I believe I can offer a slightly different take on it. Not necessarily a better one, but a slightly different take on it. Anyway, troops, thanks for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon. Peace.